A few years ago, I met Christina. It was then she was starting a new journey, from living full-time work to homeschooling her son and amalgamating her family all into one. I'm proud to have her here to share her strength as a diverse, modern-day, super multitasking mum, Christina Peak, on creating meaningful relationships.
First, I'd just like to thank Kim for inviting me to speak today. It's very exciting to be involved in such an inclusive event. Before I start, I have actually made a poster about my presentation today, and it's an A3 poster and it's laminated. And at the front, one of the front tables, there was sheets like this to go into a drawer to win it at the end, but also I would like to send it to everybody so that you can print it out and stick it in your toilet as inspiration, or in the bathroom, wherever. So literacy everywhere. So you can fill in your name and your email, and if you don't actually get the poster, I can send you one. Okay, so to give you a little bit of an idea about who I am, where I come from, my professional history, I was an early childhood teacher for about 20 years, over 20 years, and then studied holistic counselling, so I'm now a holistic counsellor as well. And currently I'm working at Mercy Community Services, which is involved in working with children who have experienced trauma. Some are still in their family of origin, most are in foster care. I also have my own business, which is Peak Health Australia, that offers counselling for adults and children. And my passion really is to support people to connect with themselves, to love themselves, to accept themselves, and particularly with children who, you know, we all get the messages early on in life that seem to disconnect ourselves from the inner wisdom that you so beautifully talked about. So, and personally, I have 2 sons, and I have a partner who has 2 sons and 1 daughter. Prior to that, I was in a relationship where my partner had 2 sons to another previous relationship. So I have relationships coming out of my ears. The beauty of all of that is that these people that I'm in relationship with are all my teachers, if I'm willing to be a student, which can sometimes be a really tricky thing to do. So creating meaningful relationships. So it's actually meant to have meaning all the way down the side. So MEANING all the way down. And then, and this is the poster that I was talking about. So it basically is a reminder. And maybe I just put it in front of me. So who is the most important person in your life? Who do you share your dreams with? Who do you wake up with? Who do you go to sleep with? Who do you create your life with? Who is the one you spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with? So I think the next one will work. Look in the mirror. Do you want to meet the love of your life? Look in the mirror. Of course it's you. So in looking at how to create meaningful relationships with others, we really need to create a meaningful relationship with ourselves. This creates the very best foundation for us to have meaningful relationships with other people. Then all the ways that we use to create that relationship with ourselves, we can then use it with the other people that we're relating to. So first of all, we need to love ourselves or accept ourselves just the way we are right now in this very moment. So that's not just all the so-called good stuff. That's sometimes the stuff that we want to keep hidden away, that we don't want anyone else to see, that we perhaps don't want to actually acknowledge ourselves. What I found is that when I do that, that bit gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you have to pay attention to it, and it's there for a reason. So we accept everything, every part of ourselves, and the parts that we may be not too happy with, what I do is look at it with curiosity. That's really interesting. Why is my voice raised? Why am I doing that? If I have the presence of mind, sometimes it's after. If I'm in the moment, I can sometimes say, that's really interesting. Why am I so angry about that? Or why is my voice raised? Or why am I doing that? And I find then with curiosity we can really be gentle, more gentle with ourselves. If it's something in the past that I look back and I think, why did I do that? What was I thinking? It's more a case of compassion, so self-compassion. It's, again, just being really gentle with myself and knowing that in that situation I did the very best that I could with the knowledge that I had, with the circumstances that I was in, and the mind space that I was in at that particular time. So, for you, accept yourself, use curiosity and use compassion. So E is for empathy, and this is, again, listen to your feelings. They are signposts to what you're needing, which we'll look at a bit more in detail later. So my feeling is that there is no negative feeling, there's no positive feeling. There is just feelings that come, and if we actually experience them and allow them to be, they move through us. And they're actually a messenger, a help for us to realise or acknowledge that maybe something's not quite right for us, or maybe something needs to change, or we need to make a different decision. So that's what I've noticed when I directly experience emotions, that I come back to a oneness. Underneath all of that, there is a oneness and a peace and a calm and a love. That doesn't mean that I don't avoid negative emotions. I'm a work in progress. I'm still learning. So this is what I try to do most of the time. So feelings are signposts. They're feedback. They're messengers to let you know what you need. When you can do this for yourself, then it's also much easier to see that and to acknowledge it in someone else as well. So if you're aware of your own feelings and listening to them, then you can also be aware of what someone else is feeling. Sometimes this is a bit tricky. I find that self-empathy, if that can happen first and you acknowledge that, then you're more likely to be able to acknowledge where the other person is at. And they call it shifting gears, because sometimes it can be a bit of a, especially when you're first learning, a bit of practice and get a bit clunky and gears crunch. Or maybe that's just me. So I use wrong way. Feelings of feedback. I use a feelings inventory with my kids and with my clients and with myself, because a lot of the time, okay, oh, that might be me.
Is there a phone on somewhere?
To look at the time. What's the time? Yes. So I use a feelings inventory. Often what I've found is that we're quite limited in our vocabulary around feelings. We're either happy or sad or angry or scared, and that's kind of about it. So there's a vast array of language that we can start to use with children so that they get an understanding of where they're at, and they have a greater capacity then to communicate with other people about what's going on for them as well. So this is something else too when you put your email I can send all this in a little package to you, because I find that laminated, use it around the table with the family, and like I said, with children and clients. So this was supposed to be at A. So A is for ancestors, country and culture, and which is very important, and I can see that everyone here embraces that, so it's fantastic. So in creating meaningful relationships with ourselves to start off with, it's really important that there is a deep honouring for our ancestors, our parents, their parents, and so on. If we reject them, we in turn reject ourselves and reject the life that we've been given. So we can't actually step fully into our life until we have that deep honouring of the people that have come before us and given us the gift of life. Now, most people struggle with this in terms of not having a happy childhood. So I was going to ask everyone, if you put up your hand, if you had a perfectly happy childhood, everything was wonderful. So for people who it's been easy for, that it's going to be a bit of an easier journey for you to actually be able to acknowledge those ancestors. So for those people who there was a bit of a struggle, it can be a bit harder. But it's harder, what I have found is that it's harder to live rejecting the people that gave you life than it is to actually find them. So my father actually sexually abused me for 10 years from about the age of 3. And so I've been on a really, really long journey. So it's not like, I came to this point yesterday and everything's wonderfully rosy. It's taken me a really, really long time to actually come to the point of being able to picture, he's actually dead now, but to picture both my mother and my father behind me as my support. And this has been such a huge shift in my life for me to be able to do that and to be able to step forward then in my life. And it's actually probably since I've done that the purpose of my life has become more available to me. So that the journey that I went on started when I was about 23. So it's been a fair while. And this kind of work is in family constellation work, they call it. And what I was able to do is to pass that wound back to where it belonged, and then to have a really deep compassion for my father and for my mother as well. So from this position, I place my ancestors behind me as support, and this is what I have right now. So even as I drive this morning here, I ask that they're there and that I can sense them and feel them and have the strength of them behind me. Because if you picture it, and actually that's what I was going to ask you to do, if you could just close your eyes for a moment and just imagine, picture your mother and father in front of you, and just be aware of looking at them from the essence of your being to the essence of their being. So this isn't about personalities and it's not about ego. It's simply looking at the essence of who they are. Now place behind them their parents, and then place the parents of your grandparents behind them, and then just notice how it continues on and on and on and on, just keeps going, and the triangle kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now if it feels comfortable for you, turn around and feel their presence behind you. And you might like to feel your parents' hands on your shoulders as support. Feel the strength of all your ancestors behind you. From this place, you can step fully into your life with all their love and all their support. So honour your ancestors. Oh, not. Notice your body. We need to pay attention to, actually, if we go back to the ancestors, this is also really important when we're relating to other people, especially with children and especially with partners or marriage or intimate relationships. If you can also put behind them their ancestors and honour their ancestors, because that's the life that they were given. Often it seems to me that there's stress and conflict between in-laws and things like that, and it's really, the person that you're living with has come from, or the person that you love has come from these people, and to not honour them is to actually not honour that person. And it's the same with children. I found is a huge thing in blended families and families that separate, that there's so much conflict and stress between the two parents who have separated, and in that we're not honouring the child's ancestor, which then they can't step fully into their life as well. So it's so important. You're joking, 5 minutes. So it's really important in having a meaningful relationship to acknowledge their ancestors as well. So noticing your body, one of the things that is not widely known, I believe, is that when we have a trauma, and most people have had a trauma at some point in their life, if it's not fully expressed or experienced in the body, it's held in the body, because when we're in a traumatic situation, we either want to fight or flee. In this day and age, we don't do either. We basically freeze. We can't get rid of the hormones that have been pumping through our body to enable us to have that ability to run or to fight. So it's in our body. So one of the things that I discovered was that when I was triggered into a fear response, which was obviously related to something that had happened previously, a sense of my body wanting to shake or tremble, I felt like I was going mad. So I think it's really important that people know that this is perfectly normal, and that for children, if they have even a minor accident can sometimes cause them to go into a freeze. For them to know that listening to their body and noticing their body is perfectly normal, and to give them a safe space to be able to move however it is that they need to move, to actually give the hormone something to do and to be burnt up, basically. And this is it's kind of like that relationship with your body. So really getting to notice your body and knowing what it needs. There's great wisdom that hasn't reached here sometimes. So I is imbalance of giving and taking. And this is where it seems pretty straightforward that in a relationship there has to be a balance of giving and taking. What the interesting point here, I think, is that often, particularly as women, we're very good at giving, and we give and give and give and give until we get really cross with the other person because they're not giving. But actually, are we able to take? Are we able to receive? Is it actually their problem or is it ours? Because if we can't receive or take, then that's, this is kind of the game that you've set up with this other person. So it's kind of taking responsibility for what's my part in this, and if I can't receive, the relationship won't succeed. It will dwindle. So it's just worthwhile looking at that. And also the giving and taking in parent-child relationships, the order is that the parent gives and the child takes. And then the balance is when the child grows and either has children of their own or has a project or a business or, you know, something that they put their life energy into. So it's really about acknowledging the interdependence, the needs that are met in that relationship, and how there is an interdependence on each other. So N is for needs, knowing what you need. I've spent a lot of my life denying my own needs, and if you don't know what your needs are, that's kind of like the feelings pointing to the needs. So deny the feeling, deny the need. If you don't know what you actually need, how can you go about getting what you want from this life? So again, there's a universal needs inventory that I use with children and clients and myself, and this is helpful in just finding out what it is that's driving them. So in this too, there's an exercise that I do in what do I want. So, and that could be, you know, looking at health, family, self, wealth, career, love, people, children, looking at all of those things, and then working out from those wants, what does that actually give you? What if you have that, what will it give you? And then what will that give you? And it's basically working back to what the need is. And then from the need, what I need to experience, how can you actually bring that into your life right now? So if it's that you want more money, because a lot of people say that, what will that get you? And is it to do with freedom or is it to do with security? And if it's freedom, how can you put that into your life right now? If it's security, how can you do that for yourself right now? It's your responsibility to meet those needs. You can get someone else to help you, but ultimately it's your responsibility. Sometimes we get caught up in the wants. Because the wants are solutions, the wants will clash with other people. Needs never clash. Needs will never clash. So you can always meet people's needs. It's just depending on how negotiable you are about how to do that. And I find that this brings a lot of clarity to myself and to relationships and to communication. If I really know what I need, I can communicate it so much better, and I don't feel guilty about it then. I don't feel wishy-washy. I don't confuse anybody else, because I found that in the past I want to say no, but I don't, and then I make up some story about it, and it gets so confusing that this is particularly in relation to my children, that they don't even know what it is that I'm talking about. They don't even get it in the end. So it brings clarity. And let's see. The last one stands for God's business. And this is another one of Byron Katie's quotes. So she's only found 3 types of businesses. There's my business, there's your business, and then there's God's business. And God can be however you perceive that to be, the universe, source, whatever. So it's really tricky for me being up here thinking, will they like me? It's not my business. Will they agree with me? It's not my business. Will they approve of, you know, my choice, my decision, my job, my clothes, my body, my hair, car, whatever? It's not my business. So I find that this is really clarifying as well for me. I can see that if I'm over here thinking about what someone else thinks, I'm not here with me. And often I think we wonder why we're lonely. It's because we're not here. We're over wondering what they think about it, or what those people think about it, or whether they're actually doing the right thing. I don't think they're doing the right thing. So I'm not here with me and completely lonely. So I think I'm finished. Oh, there you go. Let's just flip to the next one. I spent so long on that. Thank you so much. Can we do a draw now, or is it best to do it later for this?
Sometimes you haven't got our tickets then.
Okay.
Wait till later.
Yeah, so it's either orange or yellow, and like I said, we can draw it and someone can get this, but I'm happy to send out the feelings inventory and the needs inventory and even the wants and needs, and a copy of the poster as well. Thank you so much. That was fun.
Yes, you want it back? Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you, Christina. Wow, I learned a lot from that actually, and sort of when I hear Christina talk, I think I've been on a massive journey myself, and I come to the conclusion as well, and that what other people think of me is none of my business, and I try to please people as well. So I've learned that lesson, and I just be me. Yeah, I am who I am. Okay. Okay, we have panel discussion now. So if we could just wait a minute, we'll get the speakers up. And so get access all your questions and your thoughts, ladies.
Speaking up, ladies. You're in the moment. Okay, we've got one here.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Christine. John, when you were speaking before, you spoke about the whole community supporting the growth of the child, and I just wondered about either your views or anyone else's views on like the role of you as a teacher in the school and almost taking on the role of parenting as well.
Thank you. I have to say that when I have my students in my class, I actually don't see myself as their surrogate parent. I don't see myself as a replacement parent or family member. What I see myself as is the potential to be a significant other, to be able to model what I think is appropriate, loving behaviour, because I don't think that it's appropriate for me to come in as a teacher and try to be something that I'm not. I think it's also an empowering thing to have that mindset that I, as part of humanity, and part of a greater family, therefore I have that right to be in a classroom, hopefully putting forward what I feel are values, but they are my values and they are driven by my experiences and my family background. And I don't want to come into a position where my values, my moral upbringing, etc., is in any way going to negate what are the ancestors and the traditions and what have you of other people. So my response to that is that no, I don't see myself as a surrogate mum, dad, whatever. I do see myself as a significant other, and I think that's something that we can all then do. Yeah,
I see role that I play, and I play a few different roles in the community, but I see community as something that can add to what that child already has. And if they can see other people or other organisations within the community that are offering something to them to add to their life, I see that as part of the community. I see, as Dawn said, I don't see myself down at Flexi as a surrogate mother or whatever. I see myself being in a role that they can look at, and it's interesting in my position down there, quite a few of the kids have asked me why I'm in a wheelchair, and I tell them. And I just go, if I can overcome my difficulties, as best I can. Whilst you think yours are huge, just look at what you can do for yourself to make yours better. And if I can do it at my level, surely you can look at yourselves and they're really, they just accept that. And community to me is providing places for these children or adults or whoever they may be to actually have to go to if they do have difficulties. That's what I see community as being. Okay. Do you want to comment?
Do you want us to all comment, or is that...
We've got the time.
We have?
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll tell you when we run out.
I guess what springs to mind for me is that where I'm working at the moment with there's one particular child who just sprang into my head, who's in residential care as a, I think he's like 7 or 8, so he's in residential care as a teenager, and youth workers who are unable to, they're not allowed to touch or hold or, and then he comes to Mercy and has a meltdown, and actually contains himself quite well, very, very angry, stomping, growling, but doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't hurt himself, doesn't damage anything. And the teacher that was there, he ended up climbing onto her lap and being rocked, and it just happened. So I guess for me it's like finding the balance between providing them with what they're needing at the time, but also, as you said, not negating what their parents, even though this child doesn't, that he doesn't have contact with his parents, but they're the people that gave him life. So having that as a respect, and not just holding that in your heart, while still giving these children what they need in the moment. It's just to walk out and rock children.
I think they might need a blanket, Christina. One of Dawn's blankets, one of her cuddle blankets.
Exactly, and I think that's a beautiful idea that sense of connection and belonging. That's what these kids are really, really just yearning for, and to be able to give them that, I think is good.
Want me to say something? Yes. I was say that first we had to love ourselves, to learn to love ourselves, to better ourselves. So I will always do the meditation and ask the help from Buddha, and to help me to have the wisdom to really know how to help them. And that's what I'm thinking. And we try to learn to be gratitude, and we learn in gratitude so we can help children learn to have gratitude for everything. And only through the gratitude and love that they can solve all the problems, including ourselves. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to say anything? Cool, Rachel. The quiet one. No, that was a compliment.
I like to thank all four speakers so far. They've been absolutely brilliant. I was trying to find a common theme with all the questions and the comments and stuff. And it struck me that when we were talking about my business and other people's business, and we're talking about dealing with people who are different, whether it's their ethnicity, whether it's their clothing, whether it's their spirituality or ability, I find you were talking about how people were angry. I think people also are responding to their own discomfort. And if you don't understand what someone's an unusual face or an unusual disability is like, you're usually responding to the person's discomfort. And I often wonder, having identified that myself, how do we deal with this? Because you can't just discredit this as being, okay, that's someone else's business, not my business, because you have people who look at a minority religion and saying, well, your values are different to mine and you're wrong, and treat people like they're lesser human being because of their ability, because of their way they dress or whatever. That still becomes my business. And I often wonder if you guys have any words of wisdom to how do you deal with trying to bring problems to people's attention without threatening them, without making them feel like they're being, you're criticising them, trying to say like, there's people who know me know that I have an issue with a particular a local event and trying to explain how that has impact on people with disabilities is, and I've got an awful lot of abuse over that because the people I'm trying to talk to feel threatened and think that I'm saying that they're deliberately harming people with disabilities or that their values are wrong. And I'm just wondering if your ladies' wisdom is in how to maybe address that type of problem.
And I drew a short straw.
Oh boy. I wish that Forum Katie was here right now. I could defer to her. But I know what she would say is that that is someone else's business and do a judging over worksheet, which asks for the stressful thought that you're having about this needs to change, it should be different. That's bringing more in here. So it's really what Myron Katie says is putting the war on paper and just questioning it. And in that, I found that peace, when peace is here, we can't expect peace to be out there when there's war. In here, it's just not possible. So we bring peace here, and it's always here. It's always here. It's always here. Always here. It's never out there. The war is in here.
And I think also too, it's about awareness and forgiveness. We can't move forward without forgiving ourselves and those who have hurt us. And you know, I do it all the time. So, and we can't help it. But then I have to take myself into a moment where I say, oh, no, I don't want to feel like that. This is that yucky feeling. I need to feel good about myself again. So yeah, forgiveness is a big thing.
And noticing where you're at war with the people that you don't want to be at war with the other people. You perpetuate.
I understand what you're saying about you think it's your business, but it really isn't. It upsets you, but you've got to make yourself happy by allowing them to do what they want to do, because it's their business, and as hard as it is, it only upsets you. It's probably not even upsetting them. They're quite happy in what they're doing. So whilst you see the wrong, you've got to come to the peace within yourself. But I think there's levels of where you could intervene or where you couldn't. And I mean, if it's just basic life, you have to allow other people to have their feelings and their emotions, really. But if it's harmful to someone, that's different. But you've got to be able to intercept in a manner that doesn't create more conflict.
I find it always hard. I always think that everything's my business. So, and I know. But what I do want to say is that sometimes, and particularly again, I'm coming from my classroom perspective, we come together and we have our baggage. We have the thoughts and the processes and the beliefs that are defining us at that particular moment. And one of the strategies I use for what we call respectful yarning or respectful dialogue is circle time, which is ridiculous as it may sound. It works as well probably with year ones as it does with my year 12s. and we'll sit on the ground or we'll sit on a chair or whatever. And in some of my classes in the past, I've used, I think it's a South American, you know, the rain-making sticks, the ones that, you know, you turn them over and they make the sound of the rain. It's just, and what have you, it will turn. And I think First Nation people in the Americas and what have you have a similar kind of an idea, where you pass something around, and at that point in the conversation, that person's thoughts, comments, and contributions are all that matter, nothing else. And then you move on to the next one around. So everyone gets an opportunity to say. The final thing doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, if you've got 20 people all wanting different things, it doesn't mean that we're all going to end up getting our way. But we have all been listened to. We have all been acknowledged as being of equal value. And then as life happens, my choice, my journey is not the one that's going to be taken at this point in time. But it's about respectfulness, it's about integrity, it's about love. They're the things that I think are important, whether we are a minority of one or two, or whether we belong to a grouping of people that numbers in the millions. We are all of equal value, but we may not all get our own way at a particular time. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Lainey. I'd like firstly just to thank everybody for presenting us with so much knowledge and wisdom today, but particularly I'd like to acknowledge the gentleman that we've had around in the background serving us, ladies, today. It's very loving. Thank you, guys. Through the talks I've made a note that stuck out, or stood out for me. It's a bit Aussie, isn't it? Stuck out. Judy's was, it doesn't matter if I don't get it right first time. Dawn's, I'm here, not just for me. And Christina's was, if I don't know what I need help in, then I receive what I want. Since it's best to just choose one of those, I'd like to ask each person, relating to Judy's, it doesn't matter if I don't get it right first time, if you could perhaps recall an example where you didn't get it right, how it felt for you, and what the outcome was once you reflected and sort of looked inside, regards not getting it right when perhaps you had hoped that it was going to be perfect.
Because I knew exactly when you said that, what I didn't get right. You just saw it. And it was not even a private moment where I didn't get it right, it was public. So I was already nervous, and that kind of made it a little bit more nerve-wracking. How I feel about it now, I grabbed the microphone again, so you don't give me too badly. And as far as how it was received, that's up to you guys.
Well, I can say exactly the same. There was things that I had thought I was going to say that I didn't say today. But you know, it doesn't matter. The only person that knew what I didn't say was me. Nobody out there did. So it doesn't matter. We can't, but nobody is perfect. And our feelings are, yeah, I should have said that, and I should have done that, and then you think, well, it doesn't matter, because nobody's perfect. And to try and live a perfect life, we would drive ourselves crazy. We would absolutely drive ourselves crazy. And it's okay to admit to people that you've made a mistake. You know, if you've done something wrong, you know, if you've been speaking or in an argument with somebody and then they bring up a thing, something in their conversation that gives you a light bulb moment and you go, wow, I never actually thought of it that way. It's okay to say, well, look, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's really okay, is how I feel, okay?
Every lesson you go into your classroom with your lesson plans and you know this is what it's going to be, and invariably between me and the students it never ends up looking like my lesson plan at the beginning of the day. But most importantly, there have been days when I have totally stuffed up, when I've gone in wanting to show and demonstrate, kindness, all of these things, and I've lost the plot. I've shouted, I've jumped up and down, I've spat the dummy, and suddenly I look and there are 20 pairs of eyes looking back at me as if to say, "Ha, got you." And I'll go, "Guys," and it's usually guys, who's the adult here at the moment? Me, and I've just been behaving like a 2-year-old. It happens. I'm sorry, let's move on. So that's kind of, as I said, I think as a teacher you tend to sort of have grand plans and stuff up all the time, but you've got to acknowledge, and I think it's a really great role model for young people to understand, to see that you do stuff up and that you can say sorry and you can move on.
And that's a lesson in life too, Dawn, so you're teaching them something. I couldn't help myself, she's just got to be a part of it.
I'm going to say that to teach or to learn, actually we are not, as teacher is not come to teach, we also learn from the students. So every question, if we cannot answer, that's a big challenge for us. Also a new learning, new lesson for us. So we learn from each other, we comfort, help each other, and not just teacher help students also help us. So just like Confucius said, if you know, you say you know. If you don't know, you just say I don't know. It's not, you don't need to say feel shameful. Actually, the problem is if we pretending to know, we may mislead them. That is even more big problem. So I think we all learning. We just try to make ourselves better and better. Thank you.
Does anyone, we have one here?
This isn't a question, it's more of an observation, but I thought the panel might like to throw this one around. We've all talked about peace, goodness, positivity today. That's where our minds are focused. But when you look at Western culture and popular culture and our entertainments, there seems to be an awful lot of negativity there. We know what influence that has on younger people. And how do you address that? How do you create something to be an antidote to that, other than what we can individually do?
It's a really great insight. It's sometimes I feel it's so easy to become totally overwhelmed and feel as though you're never going to keep your head above water as far as negativity, as far as this feeling of oppression that seems to be coming around. I think that hope is an amazingly powerful virtue, value, whatever, that we can try and encourage. But I think that the important thing is not to pretend that the negativity isn't there, but rather, particularly I'm coming from young people, if we can improve literacy, if we can improve an ability to read and write and speak in a way that we can develop discernment, if we can be given examples of negative and positive, then I think that is an important thing. For example, on the news, it's negative, negative, negative. So we talk about it, dialogue, say, wonder what is something that can be gratitude or grumble kind of moments. Openly dialogue, that's such a powerful thing. We don't do yarn time around kitchen tables anymore. We don't do yarn time even watching the TV. I can remember watching a TV occasionally as I grew up. And it was a moment. We would sit and we would talk about what was on that TV. We would deconstruct it. We don't do that anymore. We don't often, just in passing, the majority of students in one particular class I spoke to do not sit at a table to eat a meal. Some of them eat their meals in their bedrooms. They don't even eat it with the family. And that's perhaps from a safety point of view, it's whatever. Not making a judgment on that, it's just a statement that we don't have talk time. We don't have meaningful, reflective times to and I think sometimes at the end of the day, it's important to let go of what we've seen, let go, and maybe journal. I really like the notion of journaling gratitude, of writing down 5 things that are gratitude moments in the day, because we can become overwhelmed. And if we can encourage young people in that notion of gratitude, that notion of reflective journaling, whether it's from a tradition of Christianity and prayerful reflectiveness, whatever. I think that is important, but they're not going to want to do it if writing is a task for them. If all of that, so it has to become part of that process. Sorry, it was one of my little bandwagons actually.
Can I say I'd switch the TV off and never switch it on, and I would buy a newspaper, because there's nothing in either that isn't negative, and that's what we all focus on. And in our life, I was listening to the ABC while I was waiting for my husband the other day, and they did, in America they did a 10-year survey on women. Women are far sadder now than they have ever been in life. So then the universities tried to work out why. Women today are trying to be everything. If they stay at home and look after their children, they're treated by a lot of people as if they haven't got a brain, which is not true, because they're in their right place. They should be at home with their children, making a family. Unfortunately, our desires and our wants, and not our needs, our wants, are making us want bigger houses, faster cars, everything new, the trendiest clothes, everything we've got to have. We don't. We as human beings, if we're lucky, we need someone to love us. We need a roof over our heads, whether it is ours or somebody else's. We need 3 meals a day, just food in our body, and we need a bed to sleep in, a nice warm bed. We as human beings need nothing else. But what do we have? We strive for everything. So we put the whole family unit under pressure. Mum's got to go to work so we can give our kids the latest DS machine and the latest this and the latest that. We don't need them. They're better off going out and playing. They're better off being a family. So Mum goes to work, but then she thinks she's got to work, and then she thinks she's got to have the perfect house, and she's got to have the perfect garden and the perfect children. We are striving to be perfect, and our wants have overridden our needs. And the newspapers and everything tell us this is what we have to have. It is our right. But is it? Aren't we better off living comfortably within our means and being happy? Because I think that's the only way it's going to happen. But the university, with the psychologist, said the first things to do is switch off the TV and switch off the newspapers. That will change our attitude, because we won't focus on negative. We'll look around for things that are worthwhile doing.
I too don't watch the news or very rarely buy newspapers, and don't watch TV. Yeah, just don't watch TV. Also, no news. And actually, the TV is not connected to an aerial, so no one watches TV except for movies. Again, I guess it's me and my journey of self-love and self-acceptance. that I keep bringing it back to me. And if I think that something is wrong out here and I look at all the things that are wrong out there, I will be completely overwhelmed and be paralysed and perhaps not do anything, because I feel like my little bit will not make a dent. But in that, the picture that comes to my mind is the small pebble that gets put into the pond and the ripples go out. The only thing that I can do is look after me and know that I'm at peace with myself, and then the ripple goes to my children, to my partner, and then, you know, from through them it goes out further. So for each of us that are in this room, we are that one pebble, and we can reach so many people, and that's as far as I can sort of take it. I can't look at the big picture because it is too overwhelming. I bring peace back to me.
Thank you. And actually, through my master's guidance, tell us no TV, no internet, no cell phone. It said there are 3 Mara. The number 1 is TV. The second one, internet. Oh, sorry, I missed the order. The number 1 is cell phone. The second one, internet and TV. Second and third. So I will put these things. Well, many children like occupy their time in the internet, but what they learn only knowledge, not wisdom. But through the many information and knowledge, they become arrogant. They thought they know better than their parents, but actually their wisdom, they are not wiser than their parents. So that is a big problem, and they thought they know, but actually they are not mature to understand the real world. So how to let the children not to connect to those things, only connect to the necessary information. But I agree that no news, no TV. That every day is good day, every hour is good hour, because nothing happened. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Yeah.
Thank you. I've learned a lot this morning. Thanks very much. This question is towards Christy. I just want to find out, how do you discipline a child in public with their culture in mind? Am I not talking to the microphone? Discipline a child when they throw a tantrum in public with their culture in mind.
With the culture of what I've talked about. I guess there's lots of factors there that could be interpreted. What I would, there's so many things that could be going on. What's the need there? What are they needing? And it could be that they want control or power. So that's an interesting one, where you have a power struggle that you might be involved in. To be aware of that often dissolves that, like that. The other thing that just pops into my head is the ancestor thing again. And what might be a good thing to explain here is that often when people who are meant to belong to a family system, if they're excluded from the family system for one reason or another, whether it's through divorce or death or mental illness or disability or anything like that, generally what happens is that they will be represented somewhere in another generation. And I don't know why that came into my head, but it's just what I'm imagining that could be at play there as well. The person that has been excluded, often children will take on the characteristics of that person, and it's usually not in a good way. This is very interesting in terms of what I have seen in separated parents when the ex has been, and I've experienced it myself in my family where I haven't maybe acknowledged my ex or my partner's ex and have the children represent, the other partner because that is their parent, and acknowledging them in the behaviour that has been happening stops. So it's looking at including everybody that belongs in that system into that system and acknowledging them and holding them with respect in your heart. I don't know if that actually answers your question. I think the outward expression is often not what's actually going on. That's more of a, it's a cry basically for something else. So it could be attention seeking, it could be the need for control or power, maybe that the child doesn't feel like they have a say in what's happening, or they maybe don't understand. There's a lot of times that I feel as a parent we don't explain enough of what's happening for our children, like they're going here and this is why we're going to be this long, and often we treat our children with less respect than we do our friends. We wouldn't expect them to lead something that they're engrossed in the middle, to come and do whatever it is that we want them to do. We wouldn't criticise our friend for making a mess when they were trying to help. There's lots of things that we do as parents that is not as respectful as what it could be, and not really acknowledging where the child is and what they're needing. Does that make sense?
Do you think sometimes it's the lack of boundaries and rules at home in the first place?
Yes.
And people think to say no to a child at home or wherever, you're doing the wrong thing by the child, but you're not. Because in our life we have rules and regulations, and I think some of the children of today are just given everything, so they think they have everything. And the biggest, I think the greatest love you can show a child is in giving them boundaries and rules. And I think that's sort of probably lacking a little today. And sadly, it's being exposed publicly, and they don't, when you say actually no in the public, which you haven't said no to at home, and give them those boundaries and rules.
Thank you, John. Quite structure.
I put you on detention. Very easy.
Problem solved.
Not quite. But I'm blessed with two daughters. One is a teacher of maths and French, and the other is a general practitioner. So both my girls, I feel, have now moved into a stage in their lives where they're contributing to society. However, we had many a dead cockroach act. We had many sort of lying there in the middle of a supermarket with our feet stuck up in the air. And I would just quietly acknowledge that they were there, move away from the area, because it was really their problem. It wasn't actually my problem. And after a moment or two, I might go back, always keeping within eyesight. They couldn't necessarily see me. And I would go back and I would say, I just found the most amazing thing. Oh, end of tantrum, perhaps, and we move on. So we do a deflection, or a no was a no was a no, and I have no apologies about that. But yeah, as from a teaching point of view, I do have that lovely thing called detention, so that's great.
Thank you, John. I'm conscious of the time, guys, so we can make it if we invite Sister Beryl up. Is that all right, just for a moment, just for a prayer, just in this moment? Yeah. And then we can return to that just in a minute. I'll close in a minute.
Today we pray with many others throughout the world for peace in this beautiful world. First, I want to read what a Chinese philosopher said back in the 6th century BC. He said, "If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbours. If there is to be peace between neighbours, there must be peace in the home. And if there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart." So let us pray that there may be peace and love in our hearts and in the hearts of all people. We pray to you, great spiritual power, in which we live and move and have our being. Save us from our desire to hurt as we have been hurt, to punish as we have been punished, to terrorise as we have been terrorised. Give us the strength it takes to listen rather than to judge, to trust rather than to fear, to try again and again to make peace even when peace eludes us. We ask, O God, for the grace to be our best selves. We ask for the vision to be builders of the human community rather than its destroyers. We ask for the humility as a people to understand the fears and hopes of other peoples. Loving Creator God, give us the love it takes to bequeath to the children of the world to come more than the failures of our own making. We ask for the heart it takes to care for all the peoples throughout the world, as well as for ourselves. Give us the depth of soul, O God, to constrain our might, to resist the temptations of power, to refuse to attack the attackable, to understand that vengeance begets violence, and to bring peace, not war, wherever we go. We pray that we may learn the peace that comes with forgiving and the strength we gain in loving, that we may learn to take nothing for granted in this life, that we may learn to see and understand with our hearts, that we may learn to rejoice in our being. We pray these things with humility. We pray because of the hope that is within us, and because of a faith in the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. We pray because of our love for creation, and because of our trust in you, our God. We pray, above all, for peace throughout the world.
Thank you, sister. It's a nice moment, wasn't it? What we will do now is we'll just finish up the session if that's okay. We've got a group photo, so is that all right if everyone would like to join in that? Yeah. So what we'll do, sorry? Yeah, look at me. Oh yes, I decided that during the photo we could play some John Lennon, give peace a chance. So I just thought it was real poppy, and it's his way of meditating, I think, his talent. So yeah, so please join us.